Hello, I'm Kay at the Driftless page. I design planning and productivity tools. As a neurodivergent and disabled person, my videos and designs are never going to push hustle or crunch culture, but that doesn't mean that I don't have goals or projects I'm trying to plan for. I'm also a sci-fi and fantasy author, and I'm just starting my journey in indie publishing, so I have a lot on the go. I'm located in the Driftless region of Wisconsin, which is what inspired the name of the planning side of my business. Today I'm going to be planning Q4 in this brand new planner that I just finished designing. So grab a snack, grab a drink, grab your planner, and plan with me for the next 90 days. So I know it's a bit odd to have a plan with me as like one of the first things on my channel since almost no one is going to see it. I just finished designing this new 90-day planner, goal planner. So this is effectively going to be me kind of like beta testing this planner. And, just kind of to see if there's any edits I want to make to the layouts, any new pages I want to add, anything like that. So whatever plan with me videos that I film this quarter are kind of going to be me walking through the process, using this planner, and if there's anything that I'm not vibing with, or one of the pages doesn't work out how I hoped. So I'll kind of be like live planning and brainstorming and kind of walking through my thought process about how I go about making new layouts to use. So let's dive into the planner itself. It will be called the Driftless Planner. I'm gonna kind of breeze through these initial instructions and intro pages. I'll go into all of this later as I'm finalizing all the layouts and like actually making how-to videos on how to use these. So I'm just gonna actually start with my planning. So it always starts with deciding or clarifying where I want to go. What is the point of the planning? It's, I think, very common for us to kind of decide some goals, whether that's a 90-day goal or like your New Year's resolution or whatever. You decide, I'm gonna publish a book this year, but you don't really take the time always to clarify what the true end goal is. Like, why do you want to publish that book? Why do you want to, I don't know, whatever is unique to you. Maybe you want to get a promotion at your job. Maybe you want to get to a certain state with your health goals or anything like that. Maybe you want to have a goal of like going on a vacation. We want to take this family trip by the end of this year or something like that. So, and those are all, good and fine things. It's just there's another step to that, and that's defining the point. Why do you want to do those things? Do you think it will make you happier? Do you think it will make you feel better? Do you think it will make you feel more fulfilled? Whatever your why is, you need to lay that out just as much as the goal itself. So that's what I'm going to start with here. Define your ideal is the first page, and there's journaling page on the left and then kind of like a blank space on the right. So it's about getting specific. Don't just say I want to be happier. Don't just say I want to feel more fulfilled and productive. What does that actually look like? What are the specific detailed things that will indicate to you that you have achieved that? How do you want to feel in the future? How do you want to be perceived? How do you want to show up for yourself and for others throughout the day? Be specific, and don't hold back when you're laying out these kinds of pages. Don't say, oh, well, that's not realistic, or that's not achievable for me. Just go ham with these pages. This is all about daydreaming and maybe being a little bit silly, maybe being a little bit unrealistic, and that's okay. Like, you need to know what you want to do before you define how you're going to get there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I think, speed through on some time lapse as I do some journaling on this side, and then maybe like a mind map or something on this side. I don't know if there's a ton more that I want to add for the journaling stuff. I might come back to that. But I'm going to move over to the vision board. I have done versions of vision boards where I, like put in pictures or sketch out words or something, kind of like doodle, more visual things to represent some of the things that I'm journaling about over here. I think this time I'm just gonna do a mind map. So like, what are the things that are relevant to my ideal? Like, what are the big areas of focus for that? And I think it's work and health. Yeah, work and health are like the two kind of big things that I want to focus on, because those are the two things that have the most potential to make me feel miserable, you know? I deal with a couple of chronic conditions, and they just really zap me of energy, and I deal with a lot of brain fog and stuff like that, and chronic pain. And so I, you know, looking back at the last year or whatever, the things that have detracted the most from my quality of life have been my work conditions, and then my health kind of just being a constant bugbear. So those are the two things I think that I'm gonna kind of focus on here. So I'm just gonna make a line, career stuff. And for me, that's separated out into the planning and productivity stuff. And then also my writing and like author stuff. So there's the author career stuff, you know, the publishing in the social media and, you know, your website and your newsletter. But then there's also the like actual writing itself, you know, and the planning your story and plotting and brainstorming and that kind of fun stuff. And I think I want to call those two things out separately. So what I'm going to do is kind of call out these like big major areas of my life, and then kind of like do some offshoots of like what do I want to see in those different areas of my life? You know, what would define whether I'm being successful at that thing at any given time? You know, for writing, I want to call out that, you know, like I am proud of my writing. I feel creative. I feel like the stories that I write are meaningful and worthwhile, and I'm constantly getting better at writing. You know, I'm refining my craft. I'm making stronger or more complex plots. I feel like the character arcs are really landing, that sort of thing. So yeah, let me do some of that, and then I'll probably do another time lapse here, and come back when I'm done with that. So I think I'm done with this. I may come back to this stuff later as I'm kind of refining my ideas on the page, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So after you define your ideal, then it's time to kind of think about where you are actually in reality. So a lot of the time when we are dreaming, we're planning, we're setting goals, it is very easy to just say, like, I'm gonna achieve X by whatever date you set. I'm gonna do this by the end of the year, or I'm gonna do this within the next 90 days. And you don't really acknowledge whether that's realistic. And maybe you've seen somebody else do it. Well, they published their book in 90 days. They wrote and published a book in 90 days. I should be able to do that. But you're not acknowledging what your current life is like compared to that other person. You're kind of cherry picking what that other person has put into the public, if they're posting about it on social media or something like that. They're only giving you, select information or the good news, and they're not giving you the bad news. It might be possible to publish a book in 90 days, but it's not necessarily realistic for you right now, right? And I'm just using publishing a book as kind of a random example. So this also applies to anything. If you set the goal of, like, okay, I want to run a half marathon in 90 days, and I saw that other person did their training in 90 days, so I should be able to too. Well, maybe that person ran a half marathon last quarter as well, or they are coming from a different sport, so they've already got, like, a base level of cardiovascular health and strength, and strength in their joints, and muscles developed and whatever. So, like, yes, it is realistic that a person could train for that event in 90 days, absolutely. But is it realistic for you right now? That's something else. You're not comparing apples to apples in that case. So acknowledge where your time is currently going. Acknowledge different distractions or maybe bad habits that you have. Acknowledge your need for rest, transitioning from one thing to the other. Say if you work a regular 40-hour job, that's 8 hours of your day. Are you planning on immediately when you clock out at 4, you're just gonna jump straight into going after this other goal? Or do you need some transition time? Do you need to, like, commute? Like, those are kind of like basic things that just fall into the background of our mind when we're planning, but they take time. You have to account for going grocery shopping and picking your kids up from school and stuff like that. Like, those are things that take a good chunk of time out of your day, but you don't necessarily account for them when you're doing this kind of like daydreaming and planning stuff. So these are the pages that I like to plan for those kinds of things, like detailing out, like, how I'm spending my time in reality versus how I want to be spending my time when I'm just kind of like daydreaming about the productive person that I want to be when I'm watching other people do their plan with me, or other like productivity videos. You kind of get this mindset of like, oh, I could do all that, and yes, you could, but you're not gonna start doing all of that new stuff overnight. You have to acknowledge where you are in reality. So yeah, I'm just gonna do some more kind of journaling, like calling out, these are the things that I have been doing recently. And it's not to say that I cannot change any of these things, but this is where I am currently in reality. Okay, I'm sure that there's other stuff I'll think of that I want to add over here, but I'm going to move on to the next page. So I defined where I want to go, and then I defined where I am, and this page is for calling out like where are the gaps between those things. And I think I did some of that in here, so I'm kind of just gonna copy some stuff over to this page. Like, as an example, I said one of the things that I'm doing currently is I'm using my time blocking system as kind of an excuse to procrastinate. Like, if I said in my plan, like, during this time block, I'm going to work on this project. But then I got to that time block and I was like, oh, I don't feel like it right now, or I'm not feeling well, or coming up with any number of excuses about why I can't or don't want to work on that specific thing at this specific moment. then I would say like, oh, this time block is wasted because I'm not going to work on that thing that I said I was going to work on during this time. So rather than working on that thing later, I would be like, okay, well, next week at such and such time, I was going to work on this same project then. So I'll just wait to touch this until then. Which, like, obviously, there's time in between now and then. I could work on the thing before then, but I'm like using the time blocking as an excuse of why I'm going to procrastinate, basically. Like, I can't work on that thing because I put in my schedule that I'm going to work on it later. So I'll just wait until later, So that is something that I would like to address, stop kind of leaning on those things. Something that I would like to, be real with myself about it. Not like cracking the whip or anything, but kind of acknowledge when that's happening, and like, okay, do I really not feel up to working on that project and I'm actually in need of taking a break, or am I just resistant to working on that project because it doesn't sound interesting and I'm like avoiding working on it and using what I set on my schedule as like an excuse of why I can't work on it. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that I'm going to call out on this page of like, here are things that I'm not doing currently that I could be doing. Here's basically where is the difference between where I am right now and where I want to be. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the strategizing pages. So these first four, the define your ideal, define your reality, and then identifying the gaps, are kind of like pre-journaling pages before you get to any actually planning. So now I'm going to move on to the brain dump page, which is everything that I've currently got on my plate, everything that I want to do eventually, everything that I can see myself doing soon. basically everything that's like floating in my head of like, oh, I've got to do that. I'm just gonna put it all here, and I'm not gonna worry about organizing it. I'm not gonna worry about sorting it into sensible lists. It's just gonna be messy and chaotic, and then I'll come back and kind of sort it out after everything's down. Yeah, again, I'm gonna probably come back and add stuff to this list eventually, because I just have the feeling that I have forgotten a lot of stuff here. And this is my first time like trying to do this process on video, so I'm sure that I'm, not thinking through things in my normal way. So, but for now, like the next step is to kind of go through each of these things and prioritize this and compare what's on this list to what is here. How does this stuff that I just brain dumped, how does this fit in with what I listed as my ideal? And if I wrote all this down of like, oh, I've got to get that done, or I would like to do that eventually, are these things just on my list because I feel like they're things that I'm supposed to do, or are they on my list because they're things that are actually relevant to me? And the only way to know that is to come back to the journaling that I did about what my ideal life is, what, how I would like to be spending my time, and say, does this specific item, does this fit in with this vision? So I've got a kind of a matrix of how those priorities work. And a lot of this planner is heavily inspired by Sarra Cannon's HB90 system, but I've been doing that system for so long that I've tweaked it in so many different ways that it just this is its own thing now. But this is one of the things that's like very close to her planner. In her system, and I'll link to her videos about this in the description below, but in her system, her matrix is, does this move me closer to my ideal, or it doesn't move me closer to my ideal? And then her other axes here are high short-term impact or low short-term impact are hers. And that phrasing just never really made sense to me, because what does impact mean, and it seemed like a lot of the time she was defining it as like monetary impact, like does this gain me a bunch of money short term or not? And I don't know, that's just not where my mind is at, and that's not where I'm focused, is not, how I'm making my decisions. So I mean, and especially when you're kind of pretty early on in whatever you're doing, in my case, indie publishing, nothing's going to make me any money for quite some time. So it's not worth even thinking about. And as a neurodivergent and disabled person, there's a lot of kind of unlearning to do in the realm of defining your self-worth based on your monetary value and your, productive use to society. So I'm trying to kind of disconnect how I'm thinking about my time in relation to money. So I have changed this to does this task, and let me flip back over to the brain dump page. So I'll analyze each and every one of these items on this list, and I'll say, does this move me closer to my ideal or further from my ideal? And then also, is it urgent or not urgent? Meaning, does it need to be done this quarter? Yes or no? And need to be done this quarter is like, is there an actual deadline or due date associated with this thing? So so I will get some color coding highlighters out, and I'm gonna go through this, and we'll see where I end up. Okay, I'm just gonna jump in here real quick. I feel like I did not express myself very well when I was explaining why I changed my thinking about the prioritization on these brain dump items. So I feel like it sounded like I was implying that Sarra Cannon's HB90 method wants you to like focus too much on money, and like it doesn't say that at all. It doesn't say that anywhere. It just says the word impact, and I have a hard time interpreting that to mean something other than some kind of monetary gain, just with how it's explained in that system. Like, I don't think that that's probably exactly how she meant it. And I don't think that like Sarra Cannon's method is overly or at all focused on, monetary stuff being your goals. It's not. But when I read that description, that's just what it means to me in my brain. So that's why I reframed my prioritization system. So yeah, love Sarah Cannon, love the HB90 method. The tweaks that I have made are because of my interpretation, not because that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, back to current video. Make this gray. I just don't know how it's going to show up on camera. So number 3 is Danger Zone. That seems like a dangerous color, right? And then number 4 is going to be gray. Yeah. Okay, so if an item both moves me closer to my ideal and is urgent, that is number 1. So those are the things that I want to be focusing on for sure this quarter. Number 2 moves me closer to my ideal but is not urgent, so that's like a long-term goal. So what I'll try to do is fill my plans as much as possible with green things, and then if there's any space left over, then I'll fill it with blue things, like ideally. In reality, that's not generally how it works because there's all of these number 3s. So these are things that move you further away from your ideal or keep you stuck in your current situation, but they are urgent. So these are things that you kind of get stuck having to do, or, maybe you need to keep doing your day job because you need to be paid, which, is like a very normal thing to have to consider. So, these are things that like maybe make you money, and so you have to do it urgently, in the short term, but your day job isn't necessarily listed in your ideal page at all, like it's not something you want to focus on forever. So these are things that like fill up your time if you have to do them no matter what. And if an item doesn't move you closer to your ideal or moves you further away and is also not urgent, that is something that you should just nix off of your list entirely, or delegate it or automate it if you can. So yeah, let's go with the prioritization process. That I always try to remind myself, like I did that and then I was just like staring at the next thing. One thing that I try to remind myself is not to get super stuck here, because all of these things, like, you're gonna be coming back to this page to reconsider anyway. I'm saying you as if you're going to be using this planner, but right now it's just me. I'm going to be coming back to this page and kind of reanalyzing these things throughout the quarter anyway. So it doesn't make sense to get stuck here, whether it gets highlighted in blue or green. Oh, you can't see that. Whether it falls into this box or this box, like it's not super critical to get it exactly right. Like you may come back halfway through the quarter and reevaluate one of these things and say, okay, no, that is actually important to me. So don't get stuck, and I always like to think about it, like if I am getting stuck, like, or, if I'm saying, does this move me closer to my ideal? I don't really know. I don't know how this thing would play out. Like one of my items here is to submit short stories to literary journals. And, you know, I feel like that would be a good thing for my career. It would lend me credibility, but it's not necessarily like the point of my writing career. Like I enjoy writing short stories, but I don't, you know, I don't want to be a short story writer. Like that's not my end goal. I want to be like known for science fiction and fantasy long novels. So like this doesn't necessarily move me closer to my ideal, but it would still be good for career and credibility. So is this a number, you know, 2, or is it a number 4? And really it could go in either direction. And so when I'm stuck like that, what I like to do is think about, is this something I'm excited about? Yes or no? And that would kind of filter in to whether it's a number 2 or a number 4. So that's my thinking on it. And okay, so after I said all that, I decided to submit short stories to literary journals into number 3 after explaining all of that and talking about 2 or 4, because I feel like this is something that I could get stuck in. I could spend a lot of time spinning my wheels, doing submissions, taking the time to write proposals and stuff like that, and going through and finding literary magazines that I want to submit to, and then getting rejected, which is fine, but time consuming. So I feel like that's something that I could get stuck in, and so I'm going to put that in number 3. Yeah, that feels right. Okay, now back to the Here's another one that I'm kind of like not sure about. This is something that I would like to do, make a food / chronic symptom tracker, but I don't know if that's something that really moves me toward my ideal. It is something that I have considered doing in the past, and like I've used these kinds of journals myself, and most of my planners and layouts are like, if I've used a different tool but found that I needed something different out of it, or found that, you know, oh, maybe I wanted an extra page here, or maybe I needed more space for this, that, and the other, I create my own templates when the tool isn't fitting my needs. So and then I usually like take ideas from a bunch of different places and recombine them and tweak them all so that they fit what I need them to actually do. So a food and symptom tracker is something that I've used in the past, and I haven't found one that's perfect for me. So I've thought about creating my own, but is that something that I want in my lineup? I'm not sure on that. I mean, really, it's kind of like a branding and marketing question. Like, do I want all of my products to focus on, you know, productivity and goal planning and writing tools, you know, plotting and character arcs and brainstorming and that sort of thing. So like productivity and planning and writing stuff, mostly for fiction writers, is kind of my focus. So this item here, I'm like, okay, does that move me closer or further from my ideal? Could be yes, could be no. It would be good to have more products on my website, but it might also dilute my brand. So this is either a 2 or a 4, and I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna like, I highlighted it in my 2 color, and then I'm just gonna like over highlight it in my number 4 color. So it's kind of 2 and it's kind of 4, and that is okay. I haven't thought of anything else that I want to add to this list yet, although again, I'm sure I will. But for now, I'm going to move on. So the next thing is to kind of brainstorm some goals. So I'm going to be looking back at my green things here, my number 1 prioritized items here, and then I'm also going to be referring to my ideal page. My goals are always going to be trying to bring me from my current reality closer to my ideal. I'm just going to brainstorm some different ideas right now and go back to a time lapse. As I was brainstorming my goals, I had this inkling feeling that I was basically just rewriting what I had written for last quarter, kind of as a way to not think about what my goals should actually be. But that's a bad habit. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to just rewrite what I used last quarter for the sake of not having to think about it, you know? So I think I'm gonna turn off the camera for a minute and maybe go take a break and get some lunch. Oh yeah, it's 1 o'clock already. Yeah, I'm gonna go get some lunch and I'm gonna think about this in a little bit more pensive, purposeful thinking. And I'm gonna come back when I have some things that I'm happier about over here. Okay. I am back later in the afternoon. I have had lunch, I took a little walk, and I had a little think about my goals. And you know what? I am going to keep them the same, but at least I thought about it and decided to do that rather than doing it out of inertia or just like habit or something. So I am going to go ahead and copy my goals over from my brainstorming page over to my actual like clean, organized page. Like this is just brainstorming. This is kind of messy. Lots of different wordings of the same goal to see what fits best. And then this one is like once you've decided, then it goes over here. So I'm going to do that now. The rest of these project and milestone fields I'm going to leave blank for now. For my writing goal, I know for sure that these are the two things that I'm going to work on, so I went ahead and filled those in. But for my other goals, I'm going to take some time to brainstorm my projects and kind of decide what's going to be the most helpful for each goal before I decide, basically. So I'm gonna come back here to my brain dump page and kind of pick out the green things first, and then just kind of transfer those over here, because this is not organized, right? So this is just messy. So I'm gonna pick out the green things first and move them here, kind of like in line with what goal they go to, and then ignore as much as I can the danger pink things, and just move over the green and the blue things. So as I'm adding projects to my project brainstorm page, I'm thinking less about, is this stuff that I want to do for sure this quarter? And I'm mainly looking through here to see, is this stuff that I want to do soon? And so a lot of the blue stuff I'm not bringing over, like this revision. My book one of my trilogy is heading to an editor in late October, and they're not going to get it back to me until I think like late December. So I'm not going to do that revision until early next year. So there's no point in me, writing it out again. But I did need to put it on the brain dump page just for my own like clarity and sanity. Yeah, a lot of this blue stuff is not moving over to the next page. And then there's some other things, like just as an example, that newsletter, this says write newsletter cookie, that I don't know if I'm going to get to it this quarter or if I'm going to leave it till next. So I will go ahead and write that on my project brainstorm page, but I don't know for sure if I'm going to get to it. It's just going to be like a stretch goal kind of thing. If I can get to it, that would be great, but if not, that's okay. Oh, and the reason that I'm not moving this danger zone stuff over to the other page is that this isn't even like relevant to my goals. This is related to my like day job. I'm not gonna put it here. I am gonna put it, when I'm doing my actual like monthly and weekly planning. We'll put that on there, but it's literally just sucking up my time right now. So, okay, so I finished my goal brainstorm, I finished my project brainstorm, I finished writing out my quarter goals. This space is, if I want to take any notes about progress, or maybe if I want to get more specific on anything over here, I'll write it on the other page here, but I'm going to leave it blank for now. So project plans, these are like for bigger projects that you want to get really detailed on. There's a section at the top for information about the project, your start date, your kind of description of the project, the estimate of how much time you think you're going to spend, and then there's a task list, some blank open lines, and some more lines on the bottom. There's 2 of these full page projects, and then there's another page that has 4 projects on it, a little bit smaller for projects that don't have as many tasks. So I use a system that I call just-in-time planning, which is a reference to just-in-time manufacturing. And basically it means that I'm not going to spend a ton of time at the very start of the quarter diving into each and every individual like task that goes into a project. So like let me grab an example from over here. Let's look at this planner. So I've done the initial layout, but there's all kinds of things left to do before I release this planner. I need to finalize the layout, which I'll do throughout the quarter. I need to make videos about how to use it. I need to resize it so that people outside of the US can use it. So I need to make an A4 and an A5 version. And then I need to think about how I'm going to market and promote the planner. So that was like, 5 different things that I need to do. And each one of those things might be broken out into a bunch of other different tasks. Like finalizing the layout means checking each individual page, rereading for typos, looking for alignment errors, thinking about whether I want to add or delete any pages. And so each one of those things is like a multi-step process. But I don't know every single step that I need to take until I'm starting the work, basically. Like I think that there's a lot of pressure in a lot of planning systems to have it all kind of figured out before you start. And that always makes me feel paralyzed. Even if the the system is quite gentle, like HB90 is a good example. It's all about flexibility and adapting, but I still feel the pressure to get it all figured out at the very beginning of the quarter, just because that's like the ideal. But if I remove that from my thinking, if I say like that's not even part of the system, it relieves that pressure from my thinking process, and lets me kind of move forward where I can get stuck. So the system for me is pick out from here, from this project brainstorming page, pick out the thing or maybe two things from each goal that I'm gonna do first. So in this case, like this is the next book project that I'm going to work on is book 2 of my series that's going to debut next year. So I need to write the zero draft of book 2. That's going to be my focus until I finish, and then at that point, then I will plan what I'm working on after that. From my author goal, my website needs editing, so I will likely focus on that. Just looking at what I need to do to fix my website first. I'm not even going to think about these things until I have, made significant progress or finished with the website stuff. And part of that is like decision paralysis, or like mitigating decision paralysis, and part of it is that I don't know what all the steps for the website edit are going to be yet. I have an idea that I need to edit my homepage and I need to rewrite my About Me page, and then I would like to get my books on the website. Like there's a variety of things that I would like to do, but I might, as I'm working, I might discover 3 other things that I think would be a good idea to change and work on throughout the quarter. But if I didn't plan for them, that makes me feel like I'm off track. Even though like I'm doing the thing that I said I was going to do, I didn't know all of the work that was going to go into it yet. So just in time planning for my projects allows me that flexibility of saying like, okay, this is how I'm going to start, and I'm not going to worry about the rest until I feel like this one thing is done. That is what I'm going to pull over to here for now, is just like, what is the first project? And so for writing, it's this is book 2 that I'm gonna finish the zero draft this quarter. And then for my author goal, my first project is going to be the website edit, website revamp, I'll call it. And then my planner shop goal is going to be this planner. And I am going to have some like little tasks from other major projects at the same time. Like I'm going to be working on this planner, and then I'm also going to, be posting blogs about it and stuff like that, and making Plan With Me videos. But I'm not trying to figure out exactly every minor little ticky-tacky 15-minute task that I'm gonna do for the next 90 days. Like my brain just can't handle that. So I'm not gonna worry about it, because I know that it's gonna make me feel stuck and paralyzed. So I'm just gonna write down the first thing, or the first major project that I know for sure I'm going to work on this quarter. And then now that I know these 3 things, then I would come over here to the project planner page, and that's something I need to edit. On the other for example, the monthly and the weekly pages, the header is left aligned, and on there it's center aligned. But on these pages it's center aligned because okay, I'm gonna need to think about that. That's a layout thing. So okay, that's a good example though, of something that would come onto this page for me. So if I'm not gonna use a whole page for my zero draft, because basically the task is just write the words. I've already got it plotted and I've got a synopsis written and stuff, so I just need to write the words. I'm not going to waste a page of Project Planner for writing a zero draft. So I'm going to put Driftless Planner. And then task number 1, think about, okay, so I'm going to do like a header task for the layout. And then one of the tasks that I'm going to do here is think about, oh, that says think about, that's cute. Think about header alignment. Okay. Then I'm gonna put a note here. Okay. So that's kind of what I would do for each project that I have decided that I'm gonna do first. So I'm gonna do that now, and we'll jump back over to time lapse. Hello, it is 2 days later. I have been editing the footage for this video, and absolutely appalled at how long this video is getting. You saw the timestamp already, but I was not like aware of how much footage I had taken for this video. I have edited up through this point where we were talking about project plans, and it's already like an hour long, and holy cow, I was not expecting that. So I'm gonna actually cut this video into 2. I'm gonna wrap up here talking about project plans, and then in the next video I'm gonna dive into the actual monthly and weekly planning. So you will see this stuff in the next video. But for now, I kind of just want to talk about the project plans that I've done so far. So I filled this out, and I've kind of been thinking about the layout of these pages a little bit. So these are some that are gonna get an edit, I think. And I've added a few tasks here and there, but mostly I'm feeling like my cat is meowing outside the door. I don't know if the video picked that up. But mostly I'm feeling like this is ready for me to start using. Do you want to come in, Dana? You can come in. Okay. Yeah. Come on. Come on, Dana. Come on, Dana. Goodness. You're so dramatic. Hi. Are you done? Is that enough, Dana? Are you still whining? You're not whining. I don't believe you. I don't remember what I was saying at all. Oh my gosh, the cat completely derailed me. I think that this is to the point that it's basically ready for me to use. So what I'll do as I get into my, monthly and weekly planning is I will jump back over to these project pages and grab tasks from here to put on my weekly task list. So I'll kind of scan through and see like, okay, what is the next thing from this list that I can work on, and cross things out as I go. So every month for sure, and sometimes every week I'm coming back to these project pages. And I have added another page here because I think this project might kind of explode in terms of number of tasks, and this was already running out of room, so I added another, just a blank page on this side, so that I can expand that. So yeah, right now I've got the editing. This planner is one of my big projects, and then the website revamp, and other than that, it's just kind of like small stuff like social media posts and stuff like that. So yeah, I think quarterly, this is as much as I do right at the very beginning, but like I said before, I will come back with that just-in-time planning process and reevaluate my projects as I go through the quarter. So you will see this kind of fill out as we get through it. So I'm gonna sign off here with a video that was way longer than I expected, but hey, this is my first time filming this kind of thing, so I didn't know what to expect either. So yeah, I'm going to ideally make shorter videos in the future, let this get completely out of control, and I will also be filming some more as I kind of use this planner throughout the week. I'll film a little bit more to add on to the second part of this Plan With Me video that turned into two. So thank you very much for watching. If you've watched up to this point, like, comment, and subscribe to all that YouTube stuff. I'd really appreciate it since this channel is so new. And stay tuned for the second part of this video. Bye. Layouts and things other people are using. Thank you, Dana, for interrupting me again.